Big ballin' to big embarrassment. These former big-time NBA players raked in millions of dollars during their time in the league, but they still somehow managed to lose all of their money by making bad decisions. It's sad, unfortunate, and almost unbelievable. Here are the top 10 NBA players who lost millions and went completely broke. Number 10. Larry Johnson. This red-hot UNLV Runnin' Rebel standout was drafted by the Charlotte Hornets with the number 1 overall pick in the 1993 NBA draft. Grandmama had a style of play that was exciting and fun to watch, and he quickly established himself as a fan favorite. Throughout his successful 10-year career, Johnson was able to collect over $80 million in earnings, even though his injuries ultimately forced him into an early retirement. But apparently even $80 million wasn't enough, because by 2015, Larry Johnson filed for bankruptcy, mainly due to his child support issues, as he has 5 children with 4 different women. In fact, Johnson reportedly owed one woman close to $900,000, and it looks like he was forced to concede his California home to her, as this was his only option to reconcile the debt. Number 9. Eddie Curry. In the early 2000s, Curry was one of the most promising players in the country, so talented that in 2001 he was drafted with the 4th overall pick by the Chicago Bulls straight out of high school. Curry then managed to pull in a whopping $70 million throughout the course of his career, but that still wasn't enough to keep him from going broke. Curry wanted to live large from the moment he got his first big bag, reportedly buying new, expensive luxury cars for 12 of his family members, and that was just the tip of the iceberg. By 2008, he was so desperate for money that he asked the Knicks to advance him $8 million from his $9 million salary. A year later, in 2009, his Chicago home was foreclosed on after falling over $200,000 behind on mortgage payments. Curry has also been sued multiple times for not paying his bills, including by Jacob the jeweler, who sued Curry when he didn't pay for $450,000 worth of expensive jewelry. Apparently, Eddie still hasn't learned his lesson, because just last year in 2021, Curry was reportedly evicted after he violated his lease agreement in Katy, Texas. Number 8. Darius Miles. As a high school senior, Miles was named Mr. Illinois Basketball and then went on to be drafted with the 3rd overall pick by the Los Angeles Clippers in the NBA draft. At the time, his potential seemed to be limitless, and although Miles didn't quite manage to live up to the hype, he did manage to average 10 points per game, and this led him to making over $60 million over the course of his career. But Miles wasn't the smartest when it came to off-the-court decisions, as was on full display when he was arrested in 2011 for carrying a loaded gun inside the Lambert St. Louis International Airport. And when it came to money, Darius's decisions were even worse, as he somehow found a way to squander all of his earnings, and in 2016, Miles filed for bankruptcy. He now hosts a podcast with Quentin Richardson called Knuckleheads, which definitely seems like a fitting name. Number 7. Kenny Anderson. This Queens-born baller decided to take his talent to Georgia Tech, where he led his team to a Final Four appearance in 1990, and then averaged 26 points per game the next season. His incredibly successful college career led Anderson to be drafted by the New Jersey Nets with the number 2 overall pick in the 1991 NBA draft. Anderson had an impressive NBA run, which netted him over $60 million in earnings. But incredibly, rumor has it that Kenny had spent practically all of his money by the time he retired, and this forced him into bankruptcy. It looks like Anderson is another player that liked to party, and this even costed him a high school coaching job in 2013 when he was busted for driving under the influence. But the biggest culprit to Anderson's financial demise appears to have been the child support he owed after fathering 7 children with 5 different women. Number 6. Vin Baker. A powerhouse, low-post player, Baker was selected with the 8th overall pick by the Bucks in the 1993 NBA draft. Baker had a solid career and even won a gold medal with the U.S. national team in the 2000 Olympics in Sydney. His success on the court generated close to $100 million in earnings, but his reckless behavior and spending off the court caused him to lose his entire fortune. Baker's addictions began with alcohol and weed, but subsequently became much worse, with the former pro turning to Xanax and downing bottles of Listerine. This caused Baker to hit rock bottom, and he then found himself forced to work a job at Starbucks. But Baker did finally manage to clean himself up, and even landed a job as an assistant coach with the Bucks, where he was finally able to win his first ring when they won an NBA championship in 2021. Yeah, losing 9 figures is beyond painful to even think about, but kudos to Vin Baker for turning his life around and making the best of a bad situation. Number 5. SHAWN KEMP. Drafted 17th by the Seattle Supersonics in the 1989 NBA draft, Kemp was the youngest player in the league at the time, but he matured quickly and became one of the most prolific dunkers in NBA history. The Rain Man also made it rain, like serious big bucks, to the tune of over $90 million over the course of his career. But Kemp and his fortune were destined to part ways, in large part because of child support issues, stemming from the fact that he fathered 7 children with 6 different women. There have also been several legal issues, including a 2005 arrest for possession of cocaine, marijuana, and a semi-automatic pistol. Number 4. LATRELL SPREWELL. This super talented shooting guard and small forward was a 4-time All-Star, averaging over 18 points per game over the course of his career. In fact, his career was so prosperous that Spree managed to rake in over $100 million during his time in the league. That would be enough for anyone to be set for life, right? Well, not exactly. The problems for Spree started in 1997, when he choked his then-coach PJ Carlesimo. It became clear that Spree had an attitude problem, and this seems to have been his financial undoing, when he later turned down a 3-year, $21 million contract from the Timberwolves in 2004. Because by 2008, just 3 years after he retired, Spree had apparently gone completely broke. He owed $3 million to the state of Wisconsin in back taxes, his $1.5 million yacht was repossessed for non-payment, and his 2 luxurious mansions were foreclosed on. Wow, does anyone know how he managed to burn through $100 million so quickly? Of course, you have to account for taxes, along with agent fees, but that's just nuts. If you have any idea how he managed to pull that off, then make sure to let us know in the comments. Number 3. Derrick Coleman. After an illustrious career at Syracuse University, Coleman was drafted with the number 1 overall pick by the New Jersey Nets in the 1990 NBA draft, and the future looked exceptionally bright for Coleman, and he didn't disappoint, winning Rookie of the Year. Sure, he may have underachieved a bit compared to his potential, but Coleman still had a very solid and respectable NBA career, averaging close to 17 points and 10 rebounds per game. This led to Coleman cashing in well over $91 million in total earnings. But by 2010, just 5 years after he retired, Coleman had filed for bankruptcy, claiming close to $5 million in debt, with just $1 million in assets. In addition to his lavish lifestyle, Coleman reportedly invested in the ill-fated Detroit real estate projects just a few years before the big 2009 crash. One thing we have to say about Derrick Coleman, though, is that his heart is definitely in the right place, because after the 2014 water crisis in Flint, Michigan, Coleman worked tirelessly to bring clean water to the residents of Flint who were affected. Clearly, you don't need millions of dollars to make a difference in someone's life. Number 2. Antoine Walker. The 6th overall pick in the NBA draft after leading his Kentucky Wildcats to an NCAA championship, Walker was a run-and-gun type of player who could get hot and easily eclipse 30 points in a game. This helped Walker bag a total of over $100 million throughout the course of his career, but his bad habits off the court prevented this big-time baller from keeping his millions. Yes, he loved expensive toys, and even dropped $400K on a Maybach without thinking twice. But Walker also loved the casinos, and he loved to gamble. And then there were the run-ins with the law, which were related to DUIs, as well as the trouble he faced for writing bad checks related to his gambling debts. In fact, in 2007, just a year after Walker won a championship with the Miami Heat, he was forced to file for bankruptcy. He even sold his Miami Heat championship ring to pay off his debts. Ouch. Number 1. Delonte West. This just may be the biggest fall from grace in NBA history. West earned over a total of $16 million. No, it may not be quite as much as some of the other players on this list, but that is still a considerable amount of money. Yet Delonte's terrible off-the-court decisions left him completely broke and destitute, beyond comprehension for a former NBA baller. West was a phenomenal player at St. Joseph's, averaging close to 19 points per game as a junior, and helping his team go undefeated in the regular season, only to finally be defeated in the Elite Eight of the NCAA tournament. West was then drafted by the Celtics with the 24th overall pick in the 2004 NBA draft, and West proved to be a great role player, even if he was involved in some off-the-court drama, including reportedly sleeping with LeBron James' mom when he was a member of the Cavs. But by 2009, there were some serious warning signs with Delonte's behavior, most notably when West was arrested for traffic violation and found to be in possession of a Beretta pistol, a Ruger Magnum revolver, and a Remington shotgun. The next year, in 2010, West divorced, and naturally, his net worth took a big hit. But it appears that the biggest drain on West's finances is a serious addiction to drugs. Some might try to sugarcoat this as mental health issues, but the reality is that drugs destroyed his life. There have been several videos over the past few years showing this former NBA player panhandling and seemingly homeless. It's really sad and unfortunate. Some people think we shouldn't even talk about it, but we think it's an important cautionary tale of what not to do. Otherwise, anyone who doesn't heed these lessons is bound to make the same mistakes and go completely broke, or in the case of DeLonte West, a heck of a lot worse. If you found this video entertaining, then just wait to see the one appearing on your screen right now. 10 famous rappers who lost everything and went completely broke. You will be shocked by some of these. Go ahead and click the image right now and see for yourself.